Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande, Prince Kaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Mai ki, Yamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulasi Devi ki, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Transcendental Harinam Sankirtan Yajna ki, Transcendental Book Distribution ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our reading of Transcendental Diaries by His Grace Hari Suri Prabhu. So we are on chapter 4 and we're in Bombay. It's December the 18th, 1975. Let's start with some prayers. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnana-jana Shalakaya Chakshura-militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Surubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashasha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishatarine. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's start. Kirtananda Swami, one of Srila Prabhupada's first disciples and a GBC member, arrived very early this morning from America. He gave a brief report on New Vrindavan, our ISKCON farm community in West Virginia. He distributed some delicious Mahaprasadam from Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra. Prabhupada asked about Kirtananda's health, and Maharaj explained that he has been suffering due to some paralysis in his left arm. Prabhupada didn't register much concern, telling him not to worry. He said we should expect the body to give us trouble. We must simply take shelter of the holy names of the Lord. Kirtananda Maharaj inquired with some concern how he can improve his ability to remember Sanskrit verses. Prabhupada almost chided him for asking. He said that because he is a devotee, as long as he speaks the philosophy and chants Hare Krishna, these other things are not of such great concern. Kirtananda Maharaj has come via New York, and his report on the management of the new temple building temple building there was not encouraging. He said that the project lacked a strong leader and that the financial situation was difficult. Prabhupada immediately suggested that Madhuvisa Swami, the GBC for Australia, could go and take charge. Coincidentally, this morning, Prabhupada received a telegram from Madhuvisa inviting him to the Malborn Ratha Yatra on January the 10th, 1976. So sometimes Srila Prabhupada would go on morning walks and Dr. Patel would join them and hear from Srila Prabhupada. So we're going to read a few conversations that they have. So Srila Prabhupada explains that the real standard of education and its relationship to culture, he starts speaking about that, and he says that to describe an educated man, he quoted Chanakya Pandit. He sees every woman as mother except his own wife, and others' property, possessions is just like garbage. He feels for everyone as he himself is feeling the pains and pleasures. And once he has attained this stage, then he can be considered educated. So basically, Srila Prabhupada is describing a person free from lust, free from envy, and a person who has compassion and empathy for others. That person can be considered educated, and not otherwise. And then Srila Prabhupada, he emphasizes that real education is to become upadiless, free from material designations. So upadis, with upadis we're identifying with the body. We think, I am a man, I am a woman, I am South African, I am Indian, I am American, and we think like that in terms of the body, and we identify with the body. So all of these upadis, we have to give up. That is real education, Srila Prabhupada is saying, to give up these upadis. And he asks again, what is education? Bhagavad Gita says you are not this body. That is the beginning of education. Now education means to be a nationalist. So people think to take part in politics and to be well versed in understanding what's going on in the political world, that means education, right? People think like that. But actually that's not real education, and Srila Prabhupada is pointing that out. And then he speaks about how Mahatma Gandhi would say, quit India, because he was thinking this person's an enemy and this person's a friend. And Prabhupada explains that if we think in terms of enemy and friend, then we don't have any education at all. The standard of education is samadarshina. So Krishna says that Arjuna, he's a rascal because it's not the business of the Pandit to think like that. So Arjuna, he was seeing his friends and relatives and he was thinking, oh, some of my relatives on the other side, they're behaving like my enemies, and but they're actually meant to be my friends, so I can't fight them. And then Prabhupada, he points out that actually the devotee doesn't see like that. They don't see in terms of friend and enemy because that's a part of upadis, designations. So maybe the Kanishta will see like that, the neophyte. And let's face it, we're pretty much all Kanishtas. Maybe some of you are Madhyams, but most of us will be on the Kanishta platform, and we identify with upadis. But then the Madhyam Adhikari, they're seeing, who can I preach to? And then the Uttama, he doesn't see friend, enemy, he doesn't even see man, woman, or this nationality, that nationality. He's not identifying with upadis at all. He's just seeing that this person is a spirit soul. So we have to try and at least rise to Madhyam, and eventually Uttama will come. But Srila Prabhupada is just pointing this out, that Arjuna, he was just doing his duty according to his instruction, and Krishna was instructing him not to see in terms of bodily connections, to give up his upadis. And Srila Prabhupada also makes another point, that real education means that you understand the verse Trinata Pisunichana Torora Pisahishanana. So being more humble. Another thing that is taught in material society is that education, it leads to pride, to having pride. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that actually that's not real education. Education that leads to pride is not real education, but rather education that leads to us understanding that we're just very small parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord and that we're just servants. That's the real education. And then he brings up this point that Sankhya philosophy is something that we should be careful not, we shouldn't hear that. If possible, we should avoid that. But then Dr. Patel, he questions this. He said, but Sankhya philosophy, it's a part of the Vedas. And Prabhupada said, yes, actually, the original Sankhya philosophy we can see as being non-different from the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga. Because what is Sankhya philosophy? It's the philosophy that Kapila Dev gave. And who is Kapila Dev? He's an incarnation of the Lord, right? So the philosophy he gave was looking at how to study the world in terms of how we can achieve a higher understanding of the world and of the self. So the conclusions of the Sankhya philosophy are the same as the conclusions of Bhakti Yoga. But the Sankhya philosophy has been distorted, and the kind of philosophy we hear today, which is so-called Sankhya philosophy, is actually not the real Sankhya philosophy, and therefore we should be careful of that. And then everyone is laughing with Srila Prabhupada as he's busy speaking with Dr. Patel. And then it's written here that through Srila Prabhupada's association, he is learning the art of good discrimination and giving up his pseudo-liberalism. By Srila Prabhupada's grace, he is beginning to understand that not everyone has something worthy to say or hear. A large part of Srila Prabhupada's appeal in his impartiality. His objective statements are irrefutably sensible and logical. So we have to also use our discrimination in Krishna's service because we have the ability to discriminate, and that should be utilized. We should try to understand what is favorable and what is not favorable for our devotional service. We should try to understand who to associate with and how to make advancement in spiritual life. So in this way we have to use our discrimination, and Srila Prabhupada is teaching good discrimination. He's helping Dr. Patel give up his upadhis and his pseudo-liberalism. And Srila Prabhupada says that the real problem is that people are not interested in hearing from the Gita and Bhagavatam. Although these literatures explain the essence of all knowledge, this subject matter becomes palatable by association, but without association of devotees, no one becomes interested in them. Even though we are giving daily lectures, still it is not palatable for the ordinary man. So Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3rd verse in the 1st canto, it says that O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. So this Bhagavatam, it's not for just any ordinary person, it's actually for someone expert and thoughtful. And then at the end of the verse it says that therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So it's actually those who are most advanced, they are the people who can relish Bhagavatam most. And then there's another verse, it's in Canto 5, Chapter 10, which compares people who just enjoy hearing garbage or news or anything mundane rather than Bhagavatam. They're compared to being like crows who like the garbage, basically. And the swans are those personalities who relish Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that the real problem is that without the association of those swan-like people, we don't have any taste for hearing Bhagavatam. So for ordinary people, hearing Bhagavatam is not palatable. But it's like jaundice disease. What is the cure for jaundice disease? So when you have jaundice disease, anything you eat tastes bitter. Even something sweet tastes bitter. But what's the cure for that? You have to take sugar, and then you can start to taste the sweetness again. So the more we hear, the more we start to be able to relish the sweetness, if we're in the association of the devotees. Otherwise, our appreciation won't develop. Okay. And then Srila Prabhupada, so he's criticizing different people, right? But then he again shows his neutrality. He says that if we speak critically, it's not just because we're passionate or because we have some prejudice. It's actually because this is the duty of Guru. He's meant to tell the truth. So then he quotes this verse from the Madhya Lila, which says, "Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam." So this is something that Srila Prabhupada is practically applying. What he was given, he is sharing. He's not changing anything. So it's not that he's actually criticizing. He's just speaking the truth according to how he was given it. And then he speaks about these different kinds of miscreants, the duskritina. So again, he's not criticizing, he's just pointing out what Shastra is giving us to help us understand the different kinds of people in the world. So the duskritina, they're the miscreants in society. The people who, they misdirect their intelligence. They try to attain sense gratification instead of enlightenment. So they're misusing their intellectual capacity for sense gratification. And there's different kinds of miscreants. There's the mudhas and the naradamas. The mudhas are the foolish people who are just working so hard for sense gratification all day and all night. And then the naradamas, they're the lowest of mankind. They have no religious principles whatsoever. So these are different kinds of miscreants in society. And then Prabhupada says, Krishna said that anyone who is not Krishna consciousness, he is a rascal. He is a most sinful man. He is the lowest of mankind. So why shall I not say, it is not firing, it is telling the truth. And then one devotee, he comments that the lack of questions at the previous night's program was due to the completeness of Srila Prabhupada's lecture. And Dr. Patel agrees. He says, yes, it is very difficult to question you. And everyone laughed in agreement. When we returned to the temple after the morning walk, Prabhupada looked around the building site. He immediately noticed that a heap of timber brought by a lorry from Vrindavan was lying unused. Prabhupada is expert in using everything for Krishna. And because he sees everything as Krishna's possession, he hates to see anything wasted. He questioned Saurabha closely about it, making sure he understood that it must be utilized. So Srila Prabhupada, he noticed everything and always thought about how everything could be used in Krishna's service. And it's a nice meditation when we think about everything we're using in Krishna's service, how it benefits everybody that was involved in the manufacturing of that thing. So think about the carpets, think about the chairs, think about everything we have here in the temple room or in the temple premises. Think about everything we have. Whoever was involved, even in a small way in the manufacturing of that, gets a benefit. They get a benefit. They're serving Krishna. Isn't that amazing? I was just thinking about that. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so now we're moving on to a new section. Another report on book distribution in America arrived today. Mid-morning, Hansuduta read out a letter from Tamal Krishna Goswami. Tamal Krishna wrote that the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan bus parties are now distributing, wait for it, it's amazing, listen carefully, they're distributing 50,000 hardbound books per month. 50,000. Isn't that amazing? The book distribution figures from their team and the airport distributors amazed Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Maharaj reported that November's sales were 25,000 Chaitanya Charitamritas and 112,000 Back to Godheads, with collections totaling some $120,000. This month, they were ordering 50,000 big books, an amount they hope to maintain regularly. One distributor sold 311 books in one day, a new world record. Tamal Krishna Goswami said that the party was donating $5,000 per month to the Dallas Gurukul and another $12,000 per year to the ISKCON Food Relief Program. He has also brought 2 large diesel-powered trailers and plans to tour the country, holding Ratha Yatra festivals. At the end, he requested permission to be Srila Prabhupada's personal secretary for January. Prabhupada's response was one of complete satisfaction. He has a high regard for the activities of all the brahmacharis that were a part of that team, and he sends an enthusiastic reply to say that your letter is very, very encouraging to me. I do not know how you are selling so many books. There is no instance in history where religious books were sold with such enthusiasm and success. Is there any such history? The Christians have spread their teachings all over the world, and they have got only one book. So we have got already 40 big books published in English. Therefore, if we distribute as you are distributing, we cannot even imagine the result. Your program is very nice. Please continue more and more. Your idea for holding Jagannath festivals in the big cities is approved by me. And then he says that they should do it, the Ratha Yatra festivals. When Kirtananda Swami had first arrived, he reported that sometimes books distributed in America were being ripped up by antagonists. And Prabhupada took the bright side and compared the distribution to hot sugarcane juice. It's too hot to take and too sweet to resist. Whether one admires them or not, his books are potent, which makes them irresistible. Prabhupada's optimism about the effect of massive book distribution is not unfounded. Almost daily he receives positive evidence of how people's lives are being changed by reading his books. Stephen Knapp, a bhakta from Colorado, sent a long letter thanking Prabhupada for having saved him from material life. This letter could be, and no doubt is, the most important that I could ever write to anyone. I have associated with you, Srila Prabhupada, through your books for so long now that you have knocked my material motivation from under me. My mind may still have the desires, but by associating with you, I no longer see any sense to struggle with material nature to try and satisfy my mind. I read your Bhagavad Gita, the small edition, 4 years ago, and since then I've continued to get more and more of your books. I have associated with you for so long through your books that you have already answered my questions, and now I am indebted to you by service for giving me the spiritual knowledge. But even though I have no talents or value, I pray that you will accept my service to you. And he also enclosed a well-written philosophical poem glorifying Srila Prabhupada. Into this world of darkness where everyone is so confused, with its society of cheaters and the cheated, who end up so abused, in this huge slaughterhouse where everyone is unwillingly forced to die and living entities in all bodies in their distress do cry, the spiritual master arrives to give the solution to all our problems and miseries. This spiritual knowledge is the only way to solve them. And seeing this, I simply pray, my dear Lord, please just give me the company of your devotees. In this age when atheists in society become so prominent, sitting in their temporary and false prestige, the fools remain obstinate, only to be defeated by the laws of nature and to suffer the pains of death. They are engaged in so many activities, but are simply dying with each breath. The spiritual master takes it upon himself to show the fools for what they are, and teaches us to attain eternal life while still situated right where we are. And seeing this, I simply pray, my dear Lord, please just give me the company of your devotees. The materialists who are so engaged in their temporary pleasure work so hard to enjoy wasting away in their time of leisure, to work so hard for that which lasts so short of a time, working under the perishable conceptions of I, me, and mine. To learn technology, they can more perfectly eat, sleep, and have sex. Like dull-headed animals, they have no concern for any spiritual progress. And seeing this, I simply pray, my dear Lord, please just give me the company of your devotees. Even with such glorification, Prabhupada doesn't take any personal credit. Neither does he take these accomplishments for granted. Letters like these only increase his desire to promote Krishna consciousness throughout the world. He is the life and soul of the devotees, always unerringly directing our attention to Krishna. So then he sends a reply to his devotee, Stephen Knapp, who is actually now called Nanda Nandana Prabhu. So Prabhupada, he says, so to develop attraction for Krishna is not difficult. You simply have to hear about Krishna, his activities, his name, his form, and his teaching in Bhagavad Gita. Naturally, you will develop love for Krishna, because we are all part and parcel of Krishna. The beginning process is to chant Hare Krishna, follow the 4 regulative principles and associate with the devotees, and eat prasadam of Krishna. I think you are now living in the temple of Krishna, so these things will be very easy for you to practice. And then it is written here how Srila Prabhupada's books are not only attracting people from non-Vedic cultures, they are also reclaiming those who are misled by false presentations of it. From Germany, an Indian devotee, Tulasi, wrote to thank him for giving real understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. Originally brought up to worship Krishna in the Guruvayur temple in Kerala, he later drifted away from spiritual practices. Then he met the devotees in Berlin and read Prabhupada's books. Now he is living in a temple in Frankfurt. And he wrote that, as a youngster, when I read Bhagavad Gita for the first time, I was always feeling that Sri Krishna's instructions of devotional service had been purposefully covered up by so-called philosophers and yogis. I felt in those days that probably I am not competent enough to understand Bhagavad Gita. Today I realize Krishna's eternal servant, your divine grace alone, has the right to translate and give a purport to that great Upanishad. My humble obeisances at your lotus feet. And Srila Prabhupada, whenever anyone would glorify him and his books, he would explain that actually these are Krishna's books. So sometimes he would be found reading his own books, and the devotees wondered, Srila Prabhupada, why are you reading your own books? And he said, I couldn't write something so wonderful. No. He explained that Krishna is telling him what to write. And then he was writing on behalf of Krishna. So these are Krishna's words. They're not ordinary books. And we're seeing how so many people are so deeply moved by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by associating with Srila Prabhupada. So here we're reading about Nandana Prabhu and Tulsi Prabhu, but there are so many thousands of people in the world, so many thousands of people. Just by reading Prabhupada's books, their lives are completely transformed. And then Tulasi continues that, guide me so that I can preach the message to the other Indians who go abroad for the sake of foreign qualifications and degrees. How shameful! There is no equivalent knowledge anywhere in the world other than what our acharyas have given us. And you are the only devotee of Krishna who can imbibe this feeling to our millions of people. Meanwhile, I heard your assessment on Mahatma Gandhi's life and policy. I must definitely fall at your feet the moment when I see you, because you have shown us how dependence on Krishna, rather than surrendering to the countrymen and nation, would have made India a great country. Prabhupada stressed that Krishna consciousness, the gift of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is particularly the natural birthright of those born in India. But the lack of committed response from the intelligent class of men disappoints Srila Prabhupada. So India has become diverted from its real business. In pursuit of material advancement, they are swiftly leading the populace away from the Vedic culture. Yet Prabhupada hopes to reawaken the natural spiritual yearning of the Indian people. Then by their example, the course of the world can be changed. Therefore, it always pleases Srila Prabhupada when an educated Indian takes up the Sankirtan Yagya of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then he gives this boy all encouragement. He says, I can understand from your letter that you are very intelligent. Generally, Indian people are not taking up this movement, although it is their original culture. They are now in favor of economic and technological advancement, which can never do any good to the people in general. After all, a living being lives by the grace of God. We cannot eat nuts and bolts, however nicely they may be manufactured. So if we want to be happy in this life and in the next, we have to worship Vishnu. What did Gandhi do to satisfy Vishnu? He was trying to satisfy his country, and his country killed him. He manufactured so many things which were never found in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna was personally instructing Arjuna to fight, and Gandhi took Bhagavad Gita and preached non-violence. So what was his understanding? At the end of his life, he frankly said, I don't believe there was ever such a historical person as Krishna. So what did Gandhi know about Bhagavad Gita? My only credit is that I have presented Bhagavad Gita as it is, without any speculation or interpretation. Therefore, for the first time in history of the world, people are accepting it and living practically according to the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So, Srila Prabhupada, he wants that people in India also take to Krishna consciousness and spread the movement all over the world. He says because people in India, they have some advantage when they're born and throughout their lives, they're contacting Krishna. They know about Krishna. When you go to India, you'll see everyone knows about Krishna, even if they're not so-called practicing devotees. They'll say Hare Krishna. They know about Radharani. They know about Krishna. They know Krishna is blue. I mean, I don't know about all of you, but when I was a child, I did not know that God was blue. I didn't see that coming. But there he is. He's blue and he's beautiful. So we didn't have that opportunity. But people in India from birth, they can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. They have this advantage. And actually, in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, the demigods, they pray. They're praying to take birth here on earth. So we must understand that the demigods, they have very nice lives. They have very long lives, full of sense gratification. They're praying to give that up, to come here during Kali Yuga, and specifically to take birth in India, because this is where Krishna's pastimes take place. So there's a text here, it's Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 21. Since the human form of life is a sublime position for spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatvarsha. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatvarsha, to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged there. So they pray that we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayan, because everything there is so nice. And they're saying that just a short life in the land of Bharatvarsha is preferable to living such a long life up there in Brahmaloka or in one of the heavenly planets. And then they say about living here that one who lives here can elevate himself to full Krishna consciousness and achieve the highest perfection even in a short life by fully surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So we must understand, sometimes it seems like we've hardly made any progress, but we must understand that just to be born here and to have contacted Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada and the devotees means that for many lifetimes we were engaged in pious activity. Many lifetimes, and not ordinary pious activity. We have some spiritual credit, otherwise how could we meet Srila Prabhupada? How could we live in the association of the devotees? Here, during Kali Yuga, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here, just 500 years ago, it's not ordinary. We're so fortunate, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. We should never lose sight of that. Okay. Okay, so December 19th, 1975. So Hari Suri Prabhu, he writes about his experience serving Srila Prabhupada. And while he was chanting his japa, he was falling asleep. And Prabhupada, he writes, he wasn't angry, but he said, don't sit while you are chanting. Sitting means sleeping. So we're very fortunate as well that we don't have to sit and chant, because many of us might fall asleep if we do that. So we can walk and chant, or we can dance and chant, which is even better. Being Srila Prabhupada's servant, I sometimes find it difficult to chant good rounds because I'm expected to remain on call in the room adjacent to his throughout the day. I have had to learn to chant almost silently so as to not disturb him, and this makes it harder to be attentive. Previous secretaries and servants have also had trouble chanting properly due to the demands of the engagement. So Srila Prabhupada's servants, they had to kind of adjust their lives to serve Srila Prabhupada. Just like how at the temple, Krishna, he has a specific schedule, and we have to abide by that schedule. We have to adjust ourselves accordingly. We have to give him what he wants, when he wants it, how he wants it, and serve him to the best of our ability. So actually, Srila Prabhupada was like a deity to his servants. They had to be so regulated, and they had to regulate themselves according to his needs. They had to work around his schedule, and And he had a very demanding schedule as well. So it's not like they had just an easy time being with Srila Prabhupada. It was intense for them to try and serve Srila Prabhupada. But of course they got so much mercy, they got so much association from Srila Prabhupada by serving him and trying to please him. Mm. Okay. And then again, on the morning walk, Srila Prabhupada is still meditating on how people in India have such good fortune just by being born in such a place. And Dr. Patel, he agrees, and he speaks about how his mother died while looking at a picture of Lord Krishna. So even though maybe she wasn't practicing as a devotee, Krishna was there at her time of death. So just because she was living in India, and there are pictures of Krishna, many pictures of Krishna, everywhere. Srila Prabhupada also recalled an incident of an old man in Delhi who requested a picture of Radha Krishna a few minutes before his death. He died just as it was placed before him. And Dr. Patel mentioned that his mother had also chanted Bhaja Govinda as she died. So she was chanting the names of the Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada, he remarks appreciatively, "Oh, just see, Govinda." And then he speaks about how now, unfortunately, many people in India are leaving behind their spiritual tradition in pursuit of modern materialistic advancement. And there was even a school, he speaks about this one school in Madras, and the school was centered around playing Western sports. And they had this slogan on their entrance which said, "The playing of football will bring one closer to heaven than the study of the Gita." So this is just showing how materialistic they became, thinking like that. And then Prabhupada says that they're forgetting their duty. And when the devotees wanted to have a program in their field, they said no, they don't have time for hearing about spiritual life. They just want to play sports. And then Srila Prabhupada, he says that your ordinary living must be also religious, otherwise animal. Animal also lives, but if you don't live religiously, that is animal. If you live like a human being, that human being means dharma. We cannot expect any dharma in the animal society. It is meant for the human beings. Chanakya Pandit says that a flower without smell and a man without education is the same thing. A flower without a smell is the same as a man without an education. So we can think of a flower without a smell. Maybe it looks nice, but it's kind of useless. We're not even meant to offer such flowers to Krishna because he appreciates the scent of the flower. That's almost kind of what gives the flower more value. So similarly, a man without education, and education in terms of what is dharma, what is the supreme occupation of the living entity in relation to Krishna. Without that education, our lives are just useless. We're just engaged in sense gratification, and our lives are no better than the lives of the animals. Maybe we're living in more comfort, but we're just using our intellect to live more comfortably in this world and become more entangled in this world. So Srila Prabhupada speaks about that. And then there is also more evidence being pointed out that how India has lost its spiritual culture. They have all these big hotels on the beachfront. So instead of temples, they've got hotels. And just to establish this temple in Bombay was such a struggle. And then it's just described here that because it was such a struggle, that's testimony to how much India has lost sight of what it's meant to be doing, establishing temples, worshipping Krishna. The Westerners, he says, the Westerners are coming here to study and adopt a culture India is trying so hard to lose. By the strength of Srila Prabhupada's love for Krishna and his profound knowledge, he is reversing this trend. Dr. Patel is one of the few who truly appreciate Srila Prabhupada's contribution. Despite his brash exterior, he is always keen to inquire. And then he asks, what is the distinction between a culture and an education? And then Srila Prabhupada, he explains that culture means to be a human being. Culture means to see every woman as your mother. And then he contrasts this real culture with the so-called culture being taught at universities. He's saying that without culture, there cannot be education. So the so-called education and culture being taught in the Western world is how to enjoy nice sex life, how to become proud, how to engage in sense gratification. So he says, this is not really education. He speaks about how culture teaches how to become humble, how to control the senses, and how to see everyone as mother. And then, so this culture is actually the backbone for real education. So real education has its foundation, which is culture. And there's no culture if there's no Krishna consciousness. So culture has as its foundation Krishna consciousness. So the Krishna consciousness is the foundation for culture, and then culture is the foundation for education. Oh, and then Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse which says that all of the good qualities will come to someone who is practicing Krishna consciousness. Sorry. Here, it's Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 12. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So all of the good qualities and all of the aspects of culture come to a person who is practicing devotional service, who has taken shelter of the Lord. And then that education, that real education also comes. Everything comes by practicing devotional service. Okay, so oh, we ran out of time. Okay, just to finish off, Prabhupada is extremely encouraged and pleased to see his senior disciples preaching so capably and gaining acceptance for ISKCON by their philosophical knowledge. He wrote to them that Sankirtan will always be appreciated because it is the special blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the people of this fallen age of Kali Yuga. Shukadev Goswami says, Shukadev Goswami says, this age is an ocean of faults, but there's one boon. In this age, one gets the same result as was achieved in former ages through elaborate temple worship, costly sacrifices, or introspective meditation, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. It is for this reason only that this Hare Krishna movement has spread so quickly all over the world. So all of this endeavor and austerity they had to go through in all of the previous ages to just try to make spiritual progress, we can achieve so easily just by chanting the Maha Mantra. It's so easy. It's so simple. Really, it's so simple. But it's so simple we miss the point sometimes. It's so easy and so simple. But of course, Maya Devi is there, and it seems like she's not going to make it so easy. She's not going to make it so simple. And I was hearing this one analogy Prabhupada gave. It's like if you're sitting in a very crowded train in India, and there's this small Indian person smiling and trying to sit next to you because it's so crowded, and you manage to get a seat, and it's very difficult to get a seat. But he's trying to sit next to you to try and kind of take your seat, and you know what he's doing. And you think, okay, he's just a small person, it's fine, let him sit next to me. And then he invites his children over, and then they sit next to him. Oh wait, then he invites his wife next to them, and eventually you just decide, I'm going to give up my seat, I give up, let them take the seat. So Maya is like that. If we let her take just a little of our consciousness, she will take over completely. If there's just a little hole in our sadhana, she will find it and she will rip it open. But fear not, for all of you who are practicing, there is something coming very soon. And I wanted to read this really nice paragraph. For all of you going out there today, chanting and dancing, this will come. Anyone wanting to attain the highest spiritual success of chanting purely must approach a bona fide spiritual master and serve him sincerely and with care. Gradually, as all the anarthas or unwanted desires in the heart are destroyed, the transcendental name of Krishna appears and dances on the tongue of the devotee. The devotee must relish the holy name, now nectarian in taste, at every moment. Thus, spiritually intoxicated, the devotee always feels like dancing. As the holy name dances, the devotee likewise dances. And at that moment, the ecstasy of love of Godhead also enters, dancing into the devotee's heart. The entire world falls at his feet, and Maya runs away. So all we have to do is follow the principles and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. Are there any questions, comments, corrections? His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.